A lot of investors are being misled by these dividend promises by the stocks of these creators. I don't want to be one to say this, but dividends are one of the worst things about the stock market. Basically, what a dividend is, it's basically payout the stock or the company gives out to its stockholders as a thank you for holding it. On the surface, that seems good, but let's look a little bit further into that. All the top stocks, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, Google, they don't give a dividend, and if they do, it's pretty small, either 1 or 2%. Versus other companies like dividend paying stocks between 3 to 8 or maybe 12%. One that's being pushed right now is UPS. Like I said, dividends are given out to thank you for the shareholders. The reason these stocks have high dividends is because it's to attract buyers, especially people looking for a high dividend or investors that don't know what a dividend is. If it was just UPS by itself, it's a struggling company that's been struggling and is down 30% in the market. But look, it's a 10% dividend, so some people call it a dividend trap. Since the market moves up 8 to 10% a year, a dividend over 8 or 10% will be an unsustainable dividend or maybe a dividend trap. That's because the actual value of the stock could go down if this underlying stock doesn't go up 8 or 10%. So you're getting less growth and you could be getting the same thing in a growth stock. Not to say that UPS isn't a good buy since it is a bit undervalued, personally just not my forte. So when an investor says or some TikToker says buy UPS undervalued, that might be true. But when they say it's going to give you 10% dividend, so even when it's not going to move, you'll still make money. On the first surface, that is true, but when you're getting that dividend, it's used to attract customers because their stock isn't as good of quality as something else. And that dividend it's giving you could have been invested in the stock to make the stock move 10%. So it's really not changing anything about the stock, and the dividend shouldn't really be there at all. It's basically a way to seem like the stock is better than it is, a way to attract investors. And the types of companies that do this are usually struggling companies or companies that are already at a point where they're not growing as much as other companies. Think of UPS, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble. These aren't growthy AI companies or technology companies. The only way they attract customers is stable growth and good paying dividends. Another thing I hate about dividends, if you're in a taxable account, you don't pay taxes until you sell for capital gains tax. But with a dividend, it is forcing you to pay capital gains tax earlier. And by saying earlier, since you don't pay over a year, you're paying more capital gains tax. So instead of that money compounding, you're paying tax on it and potentially either keeping it or putting it back into it. So you're getting less growth with the stock, it's misleading you, and you're paying more taxes. Another thing I hate is the obsession with living off of dividends, especially if you're young. Yes, it's a great idea, but like I said, you could be putting in growth stocks that are going to outperform all these dividend stocks like SCHD, a dividend ETF, or a income ETF that's running covered call options, essentially getting the same returns, just with higher fees and more taxes. Basically, if you're older and you want to take out money, you can just sell parts of your growth stock for profit instead of relying solely on dividends. It sounds hot and sexy, but it's mostly a scam.